go through what the difference is between being partially sighted and blind. Back in the day, a lot of times people use the term visually impaired. Just in the past few years, they have took that out and have put partially sighted or low vision. Visually impaired is not a term that is used or not a lot of people identify as anymore. There are some people that still will identify as being visually impaired, but majority of the times now people will either say partially sighted, low vision, or blind. So the difference between blind and low vision or partially sighted is someone that is blind has no vision, so it's all pitch black, or some light perception. It just depends on the eye condition you have. It just depends on the severity of the blindness and the eye condition or eye disease. Partially sighted is a terminology or term that is used depending on how much vision that individual has. So someone that has a visual acuity of 20/200, for example, because that's the visual acuity I have, I consider myself partially sighted, even though 20/200 means legally blind. The reason why I identify as someone as being partially sighted is I do have some vision. I don't have 20/20 vision, but I do have some vision. So I don't have great depth perception, so that means I cannot see things clearly that are like down below my peripheral vision, my center. Overall, my vision is not the greatest. So I can see in the daytime, I can make out large objects, I can maybe even see some signs, I can see in the daytime sidewalks, cars, things like that. Cannot make out detailed things. I have zero night perception. So in the night, I would consider myself fully blind. I can't see. Yes, I can see like car lights and things like that, or shapes and shadows, but not the vision that I would have in the daytime. Partially sighted varies from person to person, how much vision they have. Some people might just have peripheral vision and no center vision. Some people might have tunnel vision, but just think of it as like holding a paper towel roll up to your eye, and what you see through that's all that person with tunnel vision can see. Or you can think of like wearing a dark tinted sunglasses and then scratching a little bit of the sides out, or maybe the bottom, and that what it means to just have peripheral vision and no center vision. Obviously, I'm giving you a very simple definition of what it means. It can vary. If you're ever curious to know what it is to have any type of eye condition, the most common one is glaucoma, cataracts, congenital eye diseases, macular degeneration, retinitis pigmentosa. The one I have, Leber's congenital amaurosis, someone that has light perception, and then obviously blind. If you're curious to see or experience this, you can go to the Cnib. Obviously, when things go open, they do have glasses or simulators which you can try on or put up to your eye to get some sort of idea of what that person or individual sees. Sometimes a person might just have vision in one eye and not the other eye. But the main thing is, if someone does identify as being partially sighted, there's no harm in asking them, okay, so could you give me more detail, or could you explain to me what you are able to see, or you're not able to see. It's not always black and white. A lot of times people think that just because you have a cane or a guide dog, you can't see. It's like, okay, so if you wear glasses, oh, now you can see. A lot of times people with inherited eye diseases or eye conditions, glasses is not always the answer. It's not always going to give them 20/20 vision. So it's very important to know that it's not just black and white. It's not like, can you see or can you not see? There's a wide umbrella, and there's so many different categories, and people identify in so many different ways. So it's really important to find out what they identify, how they identify themselves when it comes to their disability. Always ask questions. Don't assume. It's very important to ask questions. I personally always liked it when people ask me questions, because then I can educate and explain to them what my situation is, what my capabilities are, what I can see and what I can't. And a lot of times, as people that are partially sighted, we do struggle explaining what we're able to see and what we're not able to see, because we don't know what people with 20/20 vision can see, because we don't have that lens of seeing through their eyes. So it's very important to get that clarification and ask questions. Ask questions. I can never emphasize that enough. If you don't ask questions, you won't know. You're not gonna get the answers. And we are just as ordinary people, just like you. We just might not have perfect vision, but other than that, we have a brain. A lot of times when we say we're partially sighted or blind, they automatically think you're also hearing impaired. That also, like, it's a pet peeve because I had this happen to me in school. It's like, I can hear you perfectly fine. I just cannot see as well, but I can hear you perfectly fine. So that's always this misconception or this, like, I don't know, idea or notion that's out there that just like,
so you can't hear?
You just have people randomly, like, in your face screaming at you or yelling at you. When I do have my white cane, I have videos on talking about the white cane and socializing and things like that. It's like, also you can see, then why are you using a white cane? Yes, it helps identify that I have a disability, but it also helps me get around safely. And you know, if I were to miss a step, or if I were to like bump into somebody while I'm walking, and if I didn't have my white cane, I would look like a person that is rude or disrespectful. So the white cane helps identify that you do have a disability, and it helps you get around safely, pick up those steps and curbs and things that you are not able to see. That's what the white cane, yes, it's not going to be always like 100%, but we are taught to use our cane and various different techniques depending on the environment that we are in. With someone that has a guide dog, not everyone that has a guide dog is totally blind. They might have a guide dog because they just prefer to use that as their mobility aid instead of a white cane. White canes are not for everybody. You know, yes, it's the most common thing out there, but now there's also guide dogs, and some people prefer having a guide dog versus a white cane, and they can also have some vision if they have a guide dog. I don't know much about guide dogs, so I'm not going to speak much about it, but I do have friends that have a guide dog, and that's a decision and a preference that they have made for themselves. Obviously, they have to be very good travelers, independent travelers, and be able to use a white cane. And there's all these tests and things that happen before you get a guide dog. You just don't get a guide dog like that. There's obviously steps and things that, and a process you have to go through in order to get a guide dog. But if you're interested to hear more about guide dogs and canes and people's preferences, leave your comments below, and I can definitely do another video on this and potentially maybe even bring a guest on that has a guide dog, or maybe that has gone through the process of getting a guide dog and then change their mind at the last second. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel so you can get more notifications for my next videos. Stay tuned.